country. And progressive policies are popular policies across the board. They're actually popular with independents, and they're popular with Republicans as well.
During a discussion on The View about what the Democratic Party should do, Sunny Hostin dropped some actual knowledge, and it was wonderful to watch. So I have a couple of clips here. Here's the first one.
In a recent New York Magazine interview, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez warned Democrats that they could be in trouble going into the midterms. She thinks they're still in the game, but the president and moderate Democrats need to stop thinking they can return to an era where a backroom deal with the GOP could be reached, because that kind of thinking killed the Build Back Better bill. Do you agree?
No.
Okay.
No. This is the absolute wrong lesson that Democrats have learned from what happened in the last year. The country is not left of center. We are a moderate country. Independents dominate the electorate, and it's swing districts that make a difference. It is a 5-seat margin in the House of Representatives right now, and historically, it looks like it's going to be a bloodbath for the Democrats if they don't turn things around. Now, the way to do that is not to go pull further to the left and get into these squabbles that give Republicans the ammunition they need for the culture wars. What they need to do is they need to recognize some of the disingenuous arguments Republicans are using, and Democrats need to start hitting back proverbially on holding Republicans accountable in these districts. There's only 13 competitive swing districts out of 269 that are being redistricted right now. That's not a lot. AOC is in a safe district. She doesn't have to worry about this. The progressives are in safe districts. They don't determine the House of Representatives' control.
What she is worried about, though, is the health of this country, right? And she's worried about the families of this country. And progressive policies are popular policies across the board. They're actually popular with independents, and they're popular with Republicans as well. And let me tell you what I mean about these policies. There's 84% support for paid maternity leave. I'm surprised Republicans don't think that's a good thing. 75% support government funding for childcare. 60% support boosting the minimum wage. 57% support tuition-free state public college. And 54% support Medicare for all. And that's across the board.
Who pays for it.
Well, maybe the people that are paying
well, he's
for
trying to raise the
can
taxes
pay
on
for
these
that
billionaires.
as well.
Maybe they'll pay for it.
Exactly.
All right. I have a second clip coming up, but man, first of all, incredible job here from Sunny Hostin to actually bring some real facts, some actual knowledge about what people support. So this polling about, oh, most people identify as independents. Yeah, but what does that mean? Does that mean they're between the corporate Republican Party and the corporate Democratic Party? Or do they think both parties are terrible, not serving their interests, and they want to see universal health care? They want to see higher wages. They want billionaires to be taxed more. Those are actual popular policies as Sunny there laid out. So just because you're independent does not mean you're between the two parties. So, and also any polling on how people self-identify, people, attach different meanings to different words. So just because you may call yourself a Republican, you may still support universal health care, because you support conservative cultural issues or social issues, but you're not conservative on economic policy. So this is why you can't define a country by how people self-identify in that way. That's why you have to look at polling on actual policies, which is what Sunny Hostin brought up there. And Tara Setmayer, who, by the way, is a former GOP communications director, her only response to that is, oh, until they find out who pays for it. Every other country, every other modernized country in the world has a universal healthcare system. You know what they have not gone back to or gone to? For-profit healthcare. Do you know why? Because their universal system actually works. They save money under universal healthcare. People get better healthcare under universal healthcare systems. You would be paying less in taxes under a Medicare for All system than you currently do in a for-profit private healthcare system. That is a fact. Now, unless you're a billionaire or a 100-millionaire or a multimillionaire, you may be paying more in taxes if you're incredibly wealthy, because you can, and that's how taxes work. But for the vast majority of people, they'll be paying a lot less through their taxes under Medicare for all than they currently do to private insurance. And by the way, there is study after study on this, and all you have to do is, I don't know, look across the border at Canada, where they spend less money on, or they, as in me, I live in Canada. We spend less money on healthcare, and we have better outcomes. So, like, all this bullshit from conservatives about Medicare for all is so tiring. They never, and they must, at this point, a lot of them must know they are lying, because this is the bullshit that has been called out again and again and again, and they don't care. They just keep lying about it. And again, Tara Setmayer there, why should any Democrat take advice from a former GOP communications director? Maybe Democrats should stop listening to Republicans for advice. But on the point of Medicare for all, just to end this point, 22 studies agree Medicare for all saves money. And by the way, I will link to all these links below the video under sources in the description box on YouTube, so you can read through all this yourself. But there's that. Even a conservative think tank study accidentally argued that single-payer Medicare for all healthcare saves $2 trillion over 10 years. So their whole point was they were comparing Medicare for all over 10 years to the current for-profit system over 10 years. And they showed the number. Oh, look, wow, under Medicare for all, we spend $32.6 trillion. Except under the for-profit system, you spend more. So they were, this is a big story back in 2018 because it was so hilarious that they were trying to argue that Medicare for all was terrible while accidentally arguing that it actually saves money. And then if you want to, so there's a couple of these calculators online. I'm not sure how accurate they are, but if you want to check, I'll link to this below the video. You can check, there's this one and there's this one. See how much you would be saving or paying under a Medicare for all system compared to what you normally do. So I'll link to these below. You can check that out. Now let me get to the second clip here where Sunny Hostin makes another great point.
So I was surprised to see this this Harvard-Harris poll this morning that said that it shows that Trump is leading Biden 47-41. If the thing were held, if the election were held now, I mean, we have a 6.7 million job growth in this country, which is the greatest in 40 years. So what is the problem? It's the messaging.
It's messaging.
And the Democrat, I think AOC has a point when she talks about this is not the old days when Tip O'Neill would negotiate with Strom Thurmond. Those days are whatever it was. I don't remember. But those days are gone.
But she also wants President Biden to rule by executive order, which is not how our system works.
But he has to. You can't build consensus with crazy people.
I did ask that question when we were talking about.
How can anybody possibly argue at this point that Biden should be working with Republicans to pass things? What are they going to support? So the only thing, by the way, that you saw them support last year was the infrastructure package. And you know why? Because that helped massive corporations. That helped their donors. That's why Build Back Better didn't pass, because that did not help wealthy donors. That helped actual people. But the infrastructure package, the privatizing of roads and all this garbage, that passed because that helped their donors. So you will only get consensus on what helps corporate donors, because there, most Democrats and Republicans can agree. But in lieu of that, Biden, of course, should be using more executive orders. I mean, cancel student debt, remove cannabis as a Schedule I drug. Like, these are the bare minimum here in terms of what is incredibly popular and what would actually help him and the Democratic Party in the midterms. But he's afraid to do anything. So you have here, of course, a Senate that Biden has, mansion and cinema to deal with. He's not going to get much through with them. You have to, in lieu of that, you have to use executive power. So it's good to see Sunny here. I've noticed a shift over the past 5 or so years where she has become a lot more informed. And I think AOC's win is a big piece of that. Since AOC came on the scene, she has been definitely an influence on Sunny. And I've noticed that, this panel, these discussions have become a little more filled with some knowledge because of that. Not all the time, but it's good to see that shift. And it's good to see Sunny Hostin here absolutely owning her other co-hosts with some actual facts.